Since 2004, Iowa livestock farmers have turned to the coalition to support Iowa's farmers for free, confidential, and expert assistance in raising livestock responsibly and successfully. Join us at the fence line to hear from industry experts and farmers about topics important to livestock agriculture here in Iowa. The fence line, where the gates always open. Welcome to the Fence Line Podcast. My name is Bob Quinn. The Fence Line is a production of the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers. Now, they're the livestock folks here in the state of Iowa. If you have questions about maybe adding livestock back into your operation, bringing some young people onto the farm, or maybe you'd like to put up a new barn, site in a new barn for livestock production, or maybe even plan a windbreak around an existing barn, these are the folks to call. They can also help you get prepared for any on-site inspections that may be headed around the state of Iowa. You can find out more about the programs at the website supportfarmers.com. We'll talk more about the coalition coming up in a little bit. Today, though, we are talking about ethanol production and its impact on corn growers, and we're being hosted by the Iowa corn growers. On a recent Big Show broadcast, we had the opportunity to be at the site of a Poet ethanol plant in Shell Rock, Iowa. We're going to talk to the Poet folks, but first we're going to talk with the Iowa corn growers. Now, Nolan Linus is the District 3 field manager with Iowa Corn and gets us started today. This your area of the state, Nolan?
This is, yeah. I get to cover basically from Dubuque area to Cedar Falls and north.
So let's tell the corn grower story. How do we get people involved in corn growers?
Yeah, so we have the Iowa Corn Growers Association, which is all of our policy development, which is funded from our memberships. We have about 1,000 members here in Northeast Iowa. And then we have the Iowa Corn Promotion Board, which does all the checkoff investments in terms of promotion, market development, research, and education.
Talk a lot about that today because we're sitting on the grounds of a Poet ethanol plant that is a big buyer of corn and a big producer of ethanol and a big producer of livestock feed as well. So this is a big deal in your area.
Absolutely.
Of the state. So let's talk a little bit about what you do day in, day out. What are you doing out here?
We're working with Poet today and working with you guys to help share our story in terms of what we're doing with checkoff dollars, investing in different opportunities to create more profitability for Iowa's corn farmers.
What are some of the things you're working on the checkoff? I know it's a corn promotion board area, but what are some of the things you're working on?
Yeah, so we're at Poet today, and one of the things that we've gotten to do in the last couple months is work with the U.S. Grains Council and bring a team of buyers of DDGs from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal over, and actually got to work with them on relationships here at Poet as well as some local farmers, talking to them about what they're doing on their operations, and actually resulted in some DDG sales. So that's really promising to hear.
So when you have people come in from overseas, especially looking at a market like this, what do they ask you about? What do they want to talk about?
So they want to talk with Poet about their product in and out. What does the corn look like? And then we also visited some farmers. They're very interested in our equipment. They say our equipment is bigger and better than anywhere else in the world. But also, what are we doing in terms of grain storage, grain handling, to ensure we have a quality product going out the door?
Boy, no kidding. That's a big deal. And a lot of the bin companies have been doing a lot of improving on what goes on inside those grain bins as well. It's one thing to get it out of the field, but then to lose what do they call that, shrinkage, I guess, in the bins, kind of a tough deal every once in a while. So, well, hey, thanks for joining us today. How can we get involved with corn growers?
Yeah, so I would start by purchasing a membership to be an Iowa Corn member. It's $60 a year or $140 for 3 years. That gets you your voice at the table in terms of your policy development, and it just gets you involved in terms of getting more industry knowledge, open some access for some opportunities to engage with us at the local level as well. And so all those different ways are ways to get involved with us and to hopefully gain some more knowledge and education about how to make better decisions on your own operation on your farms.
Does every county have a corn growers organization?
We do not have an active local corn growers association on each county, but I would say about half of the state has counties that have local corn growers organizations that are doing things in their local communities.
Nolan Linus with the Iowa Corn Growers. Well, as I mentioned before, we are at a Poet plant in Shell Rock, Iowa. And we want to find out what they're processing this corn into here in Shell Rock. Brandon Hansen is with us. And Brandon is the export manager for Poet. Brandon, there's commerce all around us out here. We pulled in, we saw trucks coming in, we see rail cars going out. I want to get right after it and find out what you guys are doing with all the corn you get here. How big a radius do you buy corn?
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of get started, we probably buy corn within a 45-mile radius for maybe 80% of our crop. And then there are times of the year where we'll buy kind of outside that radius. But a lot of it is super local to the counties that are immediately surrounding Shell Rock.
How much corn do you buy?
This facility will buy 45 million bushels of corn in 2025. And right behind you outside, we've got a 2 million bushel pile as well. And we've got 2 million bushels of storage here on site. So we can only store, it's only a few weeks really at our facility, so we're buying year round.
How much corn do you use on a weekly basis here?
Well, I would say our daily grind is just north of 120,000 bushels, maybe that 120 to 130. So
that 2 million bushel pile will go down pretty quick once you
start using it. It won't take us very long. Absolutely.
Okay, what do you use to turn it into?
Yeah, so at this facility, it's interesting. We produce a variety of products. So obviously, bioethanol is our number one product. But behind that, we've got dried distillers grains with solubles, distillers corn oil, and this facility is one of two facilities that produces corn fermented protein, which is a much higher protein version of DDGS.
Corn fermented protein. What's that look like?
Yeah, so the corn fermented protein is, it's kind of a fine powder, but if you, again, compare it back to regular DDGs, you're starting with a product that's only 27% protein, and we're going to remove a lot of that fiber through the process that we have here, and we're going to create a 51% protein product that can be fed. Then. Absolutely. And we can feed it into pet food, aqua feed, all new markets for us. And we've been producing that here on site for almost 5 years.
So that's not something you would buy and necessarily feed cattle here?
No, definitely not. I would say, if you're a local cattle producer around this area, the DDGS or maybe the modified distillers grains that we produce are, more geared and suited to you. This product is something that we can, create more value out of the corn that's coming into these facilities by taking that and exporting it into markets that were actually completely new to Poet when we started marketing this.
Where do you send it?
Yeah, so Poet in total, we export our feed ingredients to 28 different countries. For the CFP, I would say it's about 11 different countries, but we go to South America where there's lots of feed production. We also go to Southeast Asia where there's lots of aqua feed production. And in total, our exports are, maybe 75% of the CFP that we're producing at both of our CFP locations.
I know I mentioned to you before that about a year ago, I happened to be at the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
And watching some of the, what do they call, the trans-Panama ships moving through the canal, and there were like 17,000 containers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said that, some of them might have been ours.
No, for sure. So Poet's the 17th largest container exporter in the United States. So we ship a lot of containers, and most of those have the DDGS or the corn fermented protein. And we're shipping through the Panama Canal, around the Cape of Good Hope, into Southeast Asia. In fact,
around the Cape of Good Hope?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, since the Suez Canal has been mostly closed, a lot of our containers go off the East Coast, around the Cape of Good Hope, and into Southeast Asia, and that's my territory.
That's your area. That's kind of a long route to get there.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it takes about 50 days once that vessel leaves Savannah, Georgia, or New York, or Norfolk to get to its final destination. It'll go through a transshipment somewhere in Asia, and then the final destination will be, kind of you name it.
I would imagine you're looking closely at the tariff situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're monitoring it very closely because, if there's any, counter tariffs that are imposed on the foreign side, that would impact the customers that I'm directly dealing with every night on my phone via WhatsApp. So we're watching it. One thing that's interesting, though, is that, ahead of the Wednesday announcements from the administration, we saw some countries, specifically Vietnam, start to lower some tariffs on egg products. So we saw Vietnam, they took their corn and soybean meal tariffs from 1 or 2% to 0%. So it'll be really interesting to follow what's going to happen here in the next few weeks, in regards to tariffs.
Chess game continues.
Yeah, absolutely. You got that right.
You get basic out of a bushel of corn. You get ethanol.
Absolutely.
You call it bioethanol.
Yeah, for sure. We call it bioethanol because it's a biological process, right? So we rely on yeast in our process to consume that cornstarch and produce the bioethanol that we want to sell. And without that biology happening here at this site, it wouldn't be possible. There's no machines that can really make that work effectively.
Now, you also get, so you've got ethanol coming out of it, and you get the DDG, the feed product.
Right.
And you also get CO2. Is that kind of third product out of there. What are you doing with that?
Yeah, so that CO2 at some of our facilities is getting used for purified uses, and then we also make dry ice at some of our facilities as well. We don't do that here on site, though.
Now, I understand that you've been part of the iLead program and took some growers into a market.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so the iLead program is something that Iowa Corn sponsors, and it's for early to mid-career Iowans in the agricultural industry. Most I would say are farmers, but there's also people like me that work in ag but don't I don't farm a single bushel. But yeah, so as a part of that program, it's actually a 2-year program, and there's a lot of things that go on, from media training, leadership training. We did some advocacy work where we went out to DC, some lobbying, and then kind of to where you're getting at, one of the things we do is an international learning mission, and we went to Vietnam and South Korea in February, and learned a lot, honestly. So I traveled Asia quite a bit, but it was really neat.
We appreciate you hosting us today, and appreciate what the corn growers do, selling their product on a worldwide basis. Brandon Hansen, the export manager with Poet, talking with Brandon as we're visiting the Poet plant in Shell Rock, Iowa. Well, I mentioned that the Fence Line is a production of the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers. Let's talk a little bit with Coalition Executive Director Brian Waddingham. Brian, looking out the window, and you and I drove up today, and you look at the fields getting ready to be planted, but until you get to a place like this, you don't realize the amount of commerce that goes on in agriculture and some of the things that happen here in the state. I mean, we're talking about millions of bushels of corn being produced and being shipped out as well. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of a full circle moment. You take a look at what goes on here and all of the farmers out there that are responsible for delivering corn here, and then to get that corn shipped not even just across the United States, but all across the world. It's pretty impressive.
How many containers they're shipping out? And then we're being hosted with the folks from Poet today in Shell Rock, and I think the fact sheet, let's say I had it around here, they're grinding 1 billion bushels of corn annually in something ridiculous like 40,000 containers of actually feed go out of here and go to places around the world.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And livestock certainly has a good relationship with corn and the byproducts of corn. I think almost 26,000 tons of DDGs were produced or consumed here by U.S. livestock in 2024. So that's a real good number. And to have that relationship where our livestock are eating the corn, and then we take the nutrients from that livestock, put it back on the crop ground, and raise another crop. It's a great relationship to have here within the livestock and grains industry.
Speaking of livestock, you guys, the livestock folks here in the state of Iowa, and we have been talking about opportunity for folks to become more involved with livestock here. Let's talk about that a little bit. And obviously, we're looking at the food source side here, so we know we've got a good supply of feed, right? What level of opportunity is there?
I'd say it's pretty optimistic right now. Whether it's on the cattle side, we're taking quite a few calls to put up new calving barns, finishing barns, as well as just open feedlots. Getting some calls to maybe revitalize, refurbish some of those feedlots that were closed 10, 15, 20 years ago. But also on the poultry side, the dairy side, have even taken a few hog calls lately, not to mention shrimp. So those are all sources of livestock that do consume corn and soybeans produced right here in the state of Iowa.
So we are building a shrimp industry here.
Yes, we are. It's come on slowly, but it's in the infancy stages. But I have a good feeling here in the coming years we'll have a pretty good shrimp industry.
Who should be calling the coalition?
If you are a new and beginning farmer looking to put up your first barn, you have questions, or if you're an established farmer that's looking to grow, maybe bring a son or daughter back into the operation, give us a call. We can come right out to your farm, sit down with you at the kitchen table, in the shop, drive around in the pickup, and kind of get a feel for what you want to do, what resources you have available, and then figure out the best route to make that all happen.
I think one of the good things available in the menu of things you guys have is your ability to go out and step folks through what could be a DNR inspection.
Yeah, there's 250 pages of rules and regulations that apply to livestock farms today. Most farmers don't have time to keep up on all those rules, so that's what the coalition's here to do. We come right out to the farm, take a look at what you've got, assess your situation, and give you peace of mind that your farm would pass an EPA or DNR our inspection, and we do that all at no charge and completely confidential.
I know you've been working on a giant windbreak on one of the farms. That's another service you guys take a look at.
Yep, through a Green Farmstead Partner Program, we planted about 80,000 trees and shrubs the last 16 years. We've got a network of 25 nurseries that we trained and work with to go out and work with livestock farmers to make sure they select the best species, they're planted correctly, and they have the proper setbacks to the barns or feedlots that you're trying to protect.
You're going to be creating carbon credits with all your trees being planted around the state of Iowa as well. You also have a program that is designed as kind of an education and maybe a primer for people wanting to get into the livestock industry, and that's the Building Your Legacy program. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, the Building Your Livestock Legacy program we launched back in January, and it's geared towards helping those new and beginning farmers with the resources that they need, from lending to marketing to figuring cash flows on livestock, but then also helping out that established farmer that doesn't have family that wants to come back and farm. So we're hoping to connect those established farmers that want to maintain their farm, but at the same time help that next generation come in, work into the farm, and eventually take that farm and the livestock operation over. So that's all available at supportfarmers.com, and we've been referring a lot of people to that recently.
Again, supportfarmers.com's website. How else can we get a hold of you?
The other way, give us a call anytime, 800-932-2436.
Brian Waddingham with the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers. Again, you can find out more about their programs at the website supportfarmers.com. We are at the Poet Plant today during the fence line in Shell Rock, Iowa, and we're also being hosted by the Iowa Corn Growers. We're learning more about where some of this Iowa-grown corn heads to destinations around the world. Well, one outfit developing those eventual destinations is the Iowa Corn Growers. Ryan Stephenson is on the Export and Grain Trade Committee with Iowa Corn, and we're visiting with him for a little bit. On the telephone line with us right now is Ryan Stephenson. He is the Export and Grain Trade Committee Chair with the Iowa Corn Growers. So we're talking about the export market. What are some of the markets you're looking at, and what are some of the things your committee does?
Some of the things that we do on the Exports and Grain Trade Committee at Iowa Corn through the promotion board, we spend some time with U.S. Grains Council, and they help us to facilitate relationships, I guess, across many markets. So we have a lot of target markets, whether it's Southeast Asia, working some new area in India, as well as Africa. We're working across all those markets. So trying to expand the use of corn and corn grind in all those places, whether it's ethanol, DDGs, or whole corn, looking to expand those markets.
So where's the next big market? What's kind of your next target market?
Well, quite honestly, the Southeast Asia market appears to have a lot of growth. So whether that is Vietnam, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, or the other one, which is a giant population center, and we're starting to get a little bit of a foothold in, is India. So any of those places have been good places for us to expand, and they have some expanding ethanol markets. You guys at Poet today, I'm sure that hits pretty close to home. So. We can increase our blend rates in those countries. They're introducing legislation just like we are here at home to try to expand their ethanol usage.
So we're looking at expansion of ethanol in overseas markets as well as domestic market?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of those places they've had some E5 type blends. They've bumped them to E10s, E20s. They have some aspirations to continue towards, E30 or better. So there's some framework in other countries that are doing that as well. So this is a great opportunity for Iowa corn growers.
Well, who's our competition on a worldwide market?
Specifically in the ethanol space, we compete against South America. They're the big gorilla in the room when it comes to that. Of course, we have way more capacity production in the United States than we have usage. So it gives us the opportunity to export, which is what we need with these other countries.
Again, Ryan Stephenson talking about exports and the importance of that export market to the Iowa corn grower. Well, we are on site at the Poet Shell Rock plant. Kristen Clay is the Shell Rock Plant General Manager, visiting with Kristen and Ryan Sauer, Vice President of Market Development with the Iowa Corn Growers. Talking more about what goes on here in Shell Rock and what Iowa Corn is looking at to develop in overseas markets. We're at the Poet plant in Shell Rock talking with Kristen Clay right now, and General Manager here at the Poet Shell Rock plant. What a facility you have here.
Yeah, we consider it kind of special. We actually are one of 2 Poet plants that also have a protein process added on. So in addition to a normal ethanol plant, we extract protein and sell that nationwide and
that goes around the world, actually.
Around the world.
Yeah.
You were talking shrimp earlier, and that aquaculture is one of the main sources or customers for our protein overseas.
How about that? When we pulled up here today, number one, it smelled like you're baking bread. Mm-hmm. Okay. And also, there's a bunch of steam coming out. Where's that coming from?
The steam is just the leftover moisture from the process. So we use steam to drive the whole plant, and that last little bit that goes up our energy center stack, that's just the leftover moisture.
So that's what we see from quite a distance out then.
Yes, yeah. So when people say, I'm driving by and they see smoke, or I've had to correct people over the years that this is steam.
We have a farm that's about 3.5 miles off the interstate, and if we're ever going to do any big burn, like brush pile burning or anything, the volunteer fire department there in St. Charles says, please call us, because if you don't, everybody on the interstate does. They think you're on fire over there. So I know what you're talking about. E15. Okay, you guys ship ethanol out of here. What level of ethanol is it? A pure ethanol?
We ship 200 proof ethanol.
200 proof. Yep. About as pure as it gets.
Pure as it gets.
Okay, so what's the E15 mean to you?
For Poet wide, just going from E10 to E15. Yeah. And for Iowa wide, I should say, it would create 18 million bushels of new corn demand over what we are right now. So economically, that could be 210 million annual savings for the Iowa citizens at the pump. It's been known most summers it's about a 10 to 30 cent savings at the pump versus other blends when you use E15.
E15 is a higher blend of ethanol. When I go to the gas pump, and you hit right in the nail on the head when I go in, a lot of times I burn E85 because it makes me feel good to watch lots of gallons going in for not quite so much cost. So it's a price-driven commodity, number one. But you guys buy a lot of corn here.
Last year, we purchased a little over 43 million bushels of corn in Shell Rock.
And how big an area do you buy from?
If I think about the surrounding counties, we probably have about a 50, 60-mile radius. The majority of it is in our local counties, Butler County, Blackhawk County, Bremer County, Floyd, but we do go outside of that.
Now, we're looking at Poet across Iowa now, and you say you impact and work with 8,000 farmers.
If you think about the Iowa economy and how much Poet impacts that, it's a pretty crazy thing to think about. And the fact that we're impacting worldwide, but we're buying this corn from our friends, customers, or our friends, neighbors, in some cases even family members.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a big deal to see the commerce going on here. Ryan Sauer's with us right now, Vice President of Market Development with Iowa Corn. E15, let's throw the ball back to you. What's going on with E15 availability on a nationwide basis?
Well, first of all, we'd like to thank Governor Reynolds. 2 years ago, she passed the Biofuels Access Bill here in Iowa, which really expanded the use of ethanol or E15 here in the state of Iowa. That bill will go into effect in January of 2026. But when you look nationwide, we're really working hard on a lot of opportunities across the U.S. when it comes to E15. We're working a lot with Poet in a lot of these different areas. The great news is the retailers want the E15. They've told us they want it. The challenge is it's not nationwide yet. So we're working hard at the federal level to try to make sure that it's approved for sale nationwide all year long. Today it's only approved for 9 months out of the year. And so if we can get that in place along with retailers that want it, we think we can create a lot more demand for farmers.
Are there any big markets we're missing messing with E15?
Yeah, when you look at E15 today, it's really just more Midwest at this point, East Coast. When you get out west, there's really no E15 being sold at all. Texas, California, Arizona, Washington, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, all those big markets don't have E15 today. And that's really where we're focusing our marketing development efforts is to how do we bust into those markets and try to get more E15 sold.
So what would it mean if we could go to E15 year-round?
On the surface, it would create about 7 billion gallons of more ethanol. Demand,
used.
Yep, incrementally. It's going to take some time to get there, right? We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of infrastructure work. California today is the only state in the nation that doesn't allow E15. It's not legal to sell in California. They've got a bill introduced to try to get it approved. California alone would be 400 million gallons of incremental ethanol every year if we can get that.
What do they sell in California?
Well, right now it's all 87E. They're doing quite a bit of E85 as well, so that's good.
Okay.
That's been great. But California today is really more of a 10% market.
So they sell a 10% product and an 85% product, but not a 15.
Correct. Yes, that's right. It's not legal to sell E15 in California today.
It seems to me if you can sell E85, you ought to be able to sell E15.
Yeah.
But that's probably the same thing you're telling them.
That's right.
So
yeah.
When I go to the gas pump now, I see something called unleaded 88. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Yeah, so unleaded 88 is E15. It's a fuel that's good for farmers, right, because it creates more demand for farmers. It's as Kristen mentioned, it's cheaper. It's about 15 cents a gallon cheaper at the pump, and it's better for the environment. So when you go into a retailer, if you see unleaded 88, that's a great fuel to buy, and it'll save you some money along the way.
When I introduced you, I said you're president of market development. What else are you working on?
We're doing quite a bit of stuff on the export side of things. So when you think about, obviously we've got the tariff challenges, but exports of ethanol last year were a record. We exported almost 2 billion gallons of ethanol last year. So we're working in Japan, Canada, Vietnam. Vietnam's a pretty exciting market. The whole Southeast Asia market is really exciting. And so as we look forward, we're really looking forward to expanding the exports as well.
Ryan Sauer with us, Vice President of Market Development, Iowa Corn Growers. And we are visiting today during the fence line at a Poet plant in Shell Rock, Iowa. I want to spend just a couple of minutes on talking about the impact that plant has on the local corn grower. Mark Mueller with us now, Iowa Corn Grower Association Vice President. He markets corn at this Shell Rock plant. Now, you mentioned the U-Haul corn in here.
Yes.
Okay. So what's it mean to a producer to be able to haul corn into an ethanol plant nearby?
Oh, it's a world of help on the basis when I was growing up, and really until this ethanol plant and the ethanol industry got started by Iowa Corn, which was about 40 years ago. Before that time, the Mississippi River and Cedar Rapids set the basis for my area. My corn and everybody else's corn usually went down to Cedar Rapids, about a 70 or 80 mile drive for me. Now, an ethanol plant here is saving me a whole lot of time. My semis can do a round trip per hour, and it's just a tremendous cost savings and a better basis to work with. Once in a while we take something down to Cedar Rapids, but not like we used to, where every truckload from Northeast Iowa went down to Cedar Rapids.
What are some of the things you guys are working on with Iowa Corn?
We got a number of things, and if people are asking why should I join Iowa Corn, I guess my first answer would be access to our legislative branches. When we would call a senator or representative, either at the state or federal level, they return our phone calls. We get to sit at the table. We're in the same room with the legislators, and even though I might be on my tractor here next week, we still have staff that monitors those situations, and they can tell us to round up the wagons when we need to, when we have a call to action. That is first and foremost what Iowa Corn and what we as farmers are doing. When we're not in the tractor or when we are on the tractor, we have people there to make sure that we are kept abreast of latest issues.
I know when it's like Iowa Corn Day or any of the commodity groups days on the Hill, you guys have a pretty formidable group of people who come in.
We are oftentimes called up by our legislators saying, hey, can you give me the accurate story on this? Because they hear so many rumors from so many different lobbyists, and if you want to get the straight story, Iowa Corn has the expertise. We have in-staff experts, and when we don't, we know who to contact to get that information. We also use checkoff dollars to create new uses for corn, and God knows we need them because every year we grow more corn than we do the year before. I think Ryan Stephenson talked to you earlier about the importance of exports. We can't use up all the corn we have in this country. Try as we might. We can't drive any more than we already are. We can't eat any more than we already are.
Although I'm trying to on a daily basis. But
and I'm doing my best also. But frankly, we need everything that Iowa Corn covers, exports, new uses. Yeah. We have a program going where we're funding kind of a Shark Tank event, and that might be a time for another discussion. But it's an event that would bring out new uses for corn. We sponsored it last fall. We're going to do another one again. It was led by Iowa Corn, but we have 9 or 10 other state organizations that have joined us on it, and it brought out from last fall 132 companies, 40% of them were from around the world. And if the top 30 had their technologies fully developed, we would have used up over 10 billion bushels of corn. We only have a 2 billion bushel carryout. Now, these processes, these technologies, these new products might be years away yet, but we need to get started on them now because we are going to be growing more corn. Iowa Corn got the ethanol industry started almost 40 years ago. We need to come up with a new ethanol industry, and Iowa Corn is working on that. And if a farmer would like to be party to what's going on, join Iowa Corn.
Mark Mueller, Iowa Corn Grower Association Vice President. We've been talking about developing overseas markets, developing local markets, and looking at some of the products that come from that bushel of corn. Our host today has been the Poet plant in Shell Rock, Iowa, the Iowa Corn Growers Association, and the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers. If you'd like to find out more about the Coalition's services, check out their website, supportfarmers.com. My name is Bob Quinn, and I'll be talking to you again along the fence line.